Yo guys, welcome to the video. This is Josh or Milky, and today we're doing another currency test. I decided to test Harvest. It's a mechanic that is very adored by a lot of people. I particularly don't like doing it that often, but I will do it sometimes because I really enjoy the crop rotation mechanic. If you don't know what that is, it's this big notable on the tree right here. It says, harvest crops in your maps contain only tier 1 plants. Harvesting crops in your maps has a chance to upgrade the tier of plants of different colors. So the goal is to do as many blues and purples whilst leaving yellows to kind of get juiced up. Hopefully that makes sense. And you also have this chance, which is unique to Harvest, for the unchosen crop not to wilt. So there are two plots adjacent to one another. You have to choose between them. When you click one, there is a chance for the one connected to it to not be consumed. So you get an extra one. It's possible, if you don't wilt any of them, to have 10 harvests in one single instance, which is obviously huge, and you're going to get a lot of juice into these plants. So potential for some very high rolls on this. Now, Harvest obviously scales well with pack size, quantity, all the good stuff. So I wanted to test the difference basically between T17 and T16. As T17 grants access to much higher pack size rolls, we can scale that modifier effect. It does get very, very difficult. Having a build that can do as many mods in T17 as possible is going to massively reduce that map rolling cost and also increase your success rate. Now, I went with blue altars, as the quantum rarity you get from blue altars is also very good. But again, this is going to nerf your character. It's going to make you squishier, and you're going to lose some effects. So a difficult strat in T17. In T16, less so, but definitely still not a pushover because you are going for all this increased effect, and it is desirable to do this in 8 mods, if not mandatory. So make sure if you are doing it in T16, 8 mods are a must, as you are competing with people that are doing this in 8 mods, and they're not going to let up. So 8 mods are the standard, at least in T16. Now, what scarabs did I choose to use? The whole thing that makes this tick is the Horned Scarab of Awakening. That wilt chance I mentioned to you earlier was only 10%, and you may be thinking, well, that's not going to proc that much. If we get the Horned Scarab of Awakening, you can see Imbued Harvest here. It causes the area, first of all, to contain the Sacred Grove, which means we don't have to spend points allocated on our tree. And it also gives us 50% chance for the unchosen crop to not wilt. Harvested plants in area have a 50% chance to spawn an additional monster. So we're getting tons more monsters. The crops aren't wilting, and this sends the strategy to the moon. This is why there's such a big disparity between high investment harvest and low, because of this scarab right here. Now we can also use the Harvest Scarab of Doubling, which is simply going to double the amount of life bars we get, whilst doubling the amount of life the monsters have. Influence Scarab of the Hordes increases influence pack size. This is going to give us more altars. I went with the Cartography Scarab of Risk because my build is capable of doing any of the modifiers. At least they don't brick it. Some of them are obviously more annoying than others, like Mark for Death and all that. Probably for the video, I'll use a Nemesis. This would be the alternative that I'd go with. And then Monstrous Lineage to get blue pack size. So when I tested this in T16, I actually went with 3 Risk Scarabs. T16, I don't need to worry about any of the modifiers. So using this to get that more quant rarity pack size on the map was something I chose to do instead of the Hordes, Lineage, and Nemesis. But this is a perfectly fine substitute if your build isn't capable of running every map modifier. Lastly, I will say if you put this Scarab in the bottom here, it doesn't work. For whatever reason, it does not work. So make sure you put this Scarab here, or you're not going to have access to this Imbued Harvest right here, as you can see. So I have a map prepared. It has 73% pack size, 20% quality. Pack size chisels, I don't think are worth for this at the current price. I mathed it out with the results I got. I didn't find it to be really worth it. So you can see the mods on this that I'm able to do. You know, it's going to be annoying with the patches of Awakener's Desolation, no auras, but my character's more than capable of clearing this. So we'll jump in, and I'm probably going to cut to the Harvest, as all I'm going to do is run around the map, kill the boss, and get as many altars as I can. That's kind of the immediate goal. If you are familiar with the Fortress layout, or whichever layout you're doing in a T17, you can rush straight to the boss to get more boss altars, but they're a bit more hard to find in these than normal. I know in this one, I think it's at the top left here, but we'll see when I get to it. So take a quick note of where the Harvest is. That's important, as you're going to want to come back and find it. No quantity altar there, kind of sad. Okay, so this is a bottom right boss, hopefully. So I'm going to head straight to that whilst clearing the map. Now, obviously, with the other benefits of T17 are that they have the additional currency and scarabs and all that. So we're hoping that the boss fragments and the additional scarabs and what have you. I'm going to turn this delirium off because it's a bit annoying. We're hoping that the additional drops from T17 kind of pay for the difference that we're spending in the map, as well as the additional time we're going to spend on these maps, because they are much bigger, of course, than T16. So let's hopefully not die to this boss. Put down my 2 Var lightning strikes and pop off. Lots of damage there. He's going to die very quickly. Lovely stuff. You don't need a headhunter. People like it when I say that. You don't need a headhunter. Headhunter makes this much easier. Obviously, it's an incredibly powerful item. What you need is a strong character, not necessarily a headhunter. Headhunter sometimes can be a substitute for a strong character. Got Solia. So, yep, I'm going to come forward to the harvest. You've seen the kind of goal to pick up these altars and then just blast away. Actually, before we head on over, one thing I will say is that you've got so much pack size in these maps. The good altars are even better. So, for example, the blue altar has the divination card that rewards divination cards altar. That one is insanely good. You're going to get nurses. I've even had immortals from it today. Obviously, if you get a divine altar, you're going to go to the moon, because there are just so many mobs in this map. If you get them early on, you're going to be blasting. Okay, I'll see you at the harvest. Yeah, very difficult, as I said. Okay, so now we go up here. These have been upgraded. You can see by the kind of more full color of these have been upgraded. I'm going to do the purple and risk it. So there is, unfortunately, we only got a 3 plotter for this, but you get the idea. Use the lower tiers to feed into the yellows, as yellow is the more expensive, and then just complete all the yellows. There are times where you may want to gamble, where you want to use a yellow, or you have maybe a yellow and a blue at the end, and you want to try gambling the blue to increase the yellow even further. That's kind of up to you and how much you want to gamble, right? Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. It kind of depends. We have 4 rares here, so 4 is obviously good. You're going to get up to, like, in some maps, you're going to get, like, 14, 15. I've had 3 bosses, and then you've got chance to spawn even more of them because of that node on the scarab. It gets really out of control. I got really bored of that. 3 bosses, and the other one did well. Oh my god. A blood notch. And it resulted in 25,800 blue. So you can see from this map, only 7,800 in this map. Only, it's like a divine, right? But we are spending more than a divine on these maps. So that was an example of a bad one, and we still made over a divine's worth of yellow juice. So you can see this is going to get very good when you get the actual high rolls, which is one thing that T17 has in its favor. You're definitely going to get more high rolls in T17. The opportunity to get an absolute ton. Item map give me 34,000 yellow life force early. You can see how much I got from T17 here, and then how much I got from T16 here. Very noticeable difference, especially in like the lower juices. I got like 51k purple versus 30, 100k blue versus 70, and then slightly more yellow, about 27, 30k more yellow. So noticeable there, but also noticeable, this is the T16 loot, this is the T17 loot. You're going to get much more. You're going to get the boss fragments, which are going to try and basically cover the cost of the map. T17s do take a lot longer. I did get lucky. I dropped an immortal. I also got a boss drops for div altar. So I have excluded those, but shown them. I also dropped 2 yokes, one of them being at 10%. So, yep, the opportunity to pop off in T17 is much, much higher than T16. As for how I rolled the maps, a simple regex like this with the pack size limit, I have it set to 65. So anything above 65, I was happy to do. And then in the map, that gets scaled up to like, I had maps where they were like 150% pack size after you included the increased mod effect. So again, the opportunity to pop off is very, very high on the T17s compared. But how did it stack up? Because the investment was much higher. You see the investment in the T16 maps was only 17 divines for 20 maps versus a whopping 33 on the T17. So obviously that was just the scarabs for this. Again, as always, I mentioned I don't include the cost of the maps. It's very easy to farm yourself. And yeah, you can put them in if you really want. Life Force, we made 25 divines worth of Life Force in the T16 strat. I averaged over 10,000 per map. I think it was 10,800 total per map in T16s, which was very, very good. I did go with 3 Risk Scarabs. I think you'll get slightly less if you use the Hordes and the Monstrous Lineage, and then the remainder of the loot, which is negligible. But nonetheless, important was 11 divines. You're going to drop Scarabs, you're going to drop currency, stuff from altars. Important. And it didn't take long at all. Took just over an hour to do 20 maps. You could probably do these in 1 hour and then end up making, 18 divs an hour if you care about that. But most importantly, the profit per map is something that you're going to be able to use much more effectively in terms of how you're playing. Almost the divine profit per map is very, very nice, of course. And it's pretty much, I don't want to say guaranteed, but as long as you're doing the crop rotation correctly, you're going to be getting close to this until the prices change, which they inevitably will. But Life Force typically goes up in price, not down. So let's see. Maybe the Scarabs go up to compensate. Now, for T17, you can see immediately that we have a lot more in this category right here. We have to use Awakening, Doubling, Risk, Hordes, Monstrous Lineage. Then the cost of the T17 maps, which were 0.7 divines each, 2,260C. Took me 229 Chaos Orbs to roll all 20 maps to be runnable, and eventually that came to a cost per map of 256C, or around 1.5 divines. So a big ask. Now, we did actually cover this investment in the T16 strat, so we would have just broke even had we have invested this much in T16, showing that T16 is definitely viable, especially with the speed you can do it at. But in T17, you can see that a big portion of the loot compared to the other one was from the map drops, which you can obviously expect from T17. It's going to drop many more Scarabs, many more pieces of currency, and obviously those boss fragments. Now, I didn't include the boss altar, the immortal, the yoke. Everything else was totted up, which is basically, as I mentioned, Scarabs, currency, all that stuff. And then Life Force, we got 33 divines. I think it's pretty accurate. Wealthy Exile, it doesn't bulk anything, but I think Life Force is pretty accurate. So 33 divines worth of Life Force. This only took us 2 hours, which obviously is a lot more than the T16 strat, which you could probably do in about one and a bit. If you're blasting, you just sit down, you do an hour of this. But in T17, it's not quite the case. The maps are bigger, they are harder, but they are also more rewarding. And you can see from here, we actually, if you were blasting T16s, it's really not that far off. But this is a small sample size, and I will say the opportunity to go crazy in T17 is much, much higher. When we start including these lucky drops, the prices go, the amount of money we made goes through the roof, and you are going to get these eventually, right? You're going to get stuff like this. So based on this, T17, definitely highest chance to get a lot of Life Force and a lot of loot, get those big pop-off Life Force explosions like I've shown with the 34,000 Life Force map that I had. But the prices obviously will adjust if a lot of people start doing this. This is a very easy market to saturate. The Scarab isn't overly abundant. But I think it's safe to say if this strategy is viable, then T17 is the place to do it. Because T17s almost pay themselves back, even when using just these Scarabs, and when you're rolling for pack size and not stuff like Scarabs. So there it is. Well, they almost did, right? Excluding lucky drops, they almost paid back the entire investment without including any of the Life Force. So T17s, to everyone's shock, are very, very good, but T16 isn't that far behind. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope if you try out Harvest, you have a good time with it. Check the prices after I make the video. I think I saw someone else doing Harvest today, Try Polar Bear. He's doing a pretty similar thing that I'm doing. So if a lot of people start doing this, obviously the prices will adjust. But here is the science, 16 versus 17, at least the amount that I could do today. I'll see you next time.